Greetings, my name is Chris Boris. I am the Ghost Doctor, and I'm also the author of Ghost Hunting 2.0. Now, today we're going to be talking about some very heavy subjects, mainly tiered reality. Now, I'm sure you're probably thinking to yourself, what exactly does that mean? Well, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how every culture throughout time has pretty much tiered heaven, hell, reality, every different facet of the spirit world into a tier system. And we're going to break that down and figure out how this all works together in creating Ghost Hunting 2.0, because there are a lot of facets to bring this together. And before I can start getting into heavier stuff, you have to understand that reality is tiered and there's different machinations in each one of these tiers pulling the strings, but it all comes together in a very harmonious symphony. Now, before we get started, I want to put it out there that I wanted to make this episode about a month ago, but a couple weird instances happened at the house here that got in the way of production. In fact, a day before I was going to be filming this episode, that night we had some weird paranormal things happen where we had an entity kind of come in and wake us up in the middle of the night and mutter the words, "I can't breathe." Now, what's weird about this is that the very next day, all over the news was George Floyd, and one of the mantras that they were talking about was the words saying the exact same phrase, "I can't breathe," which was just, it blew me away. So I don't know if what came into our room was operating on the same frequency, but yeah, very weird. And we have weird things happen at this house all the time. I always have to cleanse it and bless it because I'm a lightning rod for this stuff. You know, I'm just not called the Ghost Doctor for nothing. Another weird thing that happened is the very next day we had sewage problems happen here in the basement. Behind me, it just totally destroyed the set that I usually film from. Couldn't do it. We had sewage coming up and it was just nasty, so delayed production again. And what was weird is I told my friend Alan about this, the Buddhist priest that usually helps me on these investigations, and he was telling me that he started research about a week prior of looking into cultures and the various negative entities that hang around in sewers. And well, talk about a strange synchronicity. So when I told him about this, he was blown away as well. So a lot of weird concurrent things happening simultaneously to show that the message that I'm about to lay out to you, there are forces in this world that do not want you to know about what I'm about to talk about. But yes, layers of reality. Now, to understand what I talk about in Ghost Hunting 2.0, you have to view the world through a layered reality. And the best example, which is actually in the Bible and probably people are most familiar with, are the concept of heaven and hell. You know, you have light and dark. It's separated and tiered. You know, you have lightness. Over here, I have a light right here, and then over here, darkness. You know, there is no light. And you have various gradients and shades of gray in between those light and dark, which is, you know, also represented in Asian culture with the yin and yang symbol. You have the light and dark kind of fighting each other and going round and round in a circle. But when we look at the Bible, there's actually more tier systems that are found, especially when we look at heaven. In the book of Job, it takes the heaven realm and breaks it down into 9 separate layers. And in each layer, you find the different denizens that occupy each world. You know, at the bottom you have the angels, and then above that you have archangels and the cherubim, and it goes up and up and up and up until you reach the top of the hierarchy, which is God, the figurehead. So basically you have to, the theory is you have to graduate through each level. You know, even high school is tiered with freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So another great example of this comes to us from Dante's Inferno, which this was laid out in the Middle Ages by Dante, and he created a book based on his dreams and things that came to him. And what he did is he layered the hell realms from Catholicism tradition, and he created this onion-like symbol where the deeper you go, the worse the hells become. So at the top you have the first circle, which is limbo, which was a concept that didn't exist prior to the Middle Ages. They had to actually bring limbo into existence to kind of address all the weird things that were happening in the spirit world in between states. And not only did they come up with limbo, but they also came up with purgatory as well. And that also goes with the tier system that exists in Catholicism. So if we go further down, we have more circles, which we find a hell dedicated to the lustful, one gluttonous, and it just goes on and on. There's different evil for each type of sin that is committed, and this all goes back to karma, and the karma that you do on earth kind of accumulates on your body, kind of like a spongy substance. And what it does, it kind of attaches to yourself throughout life and it weighs you down. This is why when you look at near-death experiences, 99% of these are positive. 1%, however, are negative. There's actually one thread that goes through all these experiences. With the positive experiences, the person pops out of their body and they have all these wild things happen. With the negative experiences, they don't pop out of their body. They're one with the body, and usually demons or whatever come up and start gnawing at them, and they feel pain and everything else like that. So what I'm getting at is the more sin or negative karma that you have, it attaches to your body and weighs you down. So when we look at a tier system like this, it will actually become a weighted system that takes you further down into the dark abyss. And that's, in a roundabout way, that is what the Bible, that's what all these religious cultures are telling you. If you break free from all this negativity, you're not going to be attached to your body. You're going to float up and rise above it all. So there's various ways that you could kind of tier realities. So these are the hell realities in Catholicism. And on the other side of the coin, we have the tiered heavens. Now, what's interesting is each 3 of these layers are even broken down even more into different spheres that have different functions. You have the messengers on the bottom, the governors on top, and then overseers on top of that. And this is just not subject to Catholicism. We also find this tiered system in Buddhism as well. And if you thought Catholicism had a lot of layers in their heavens, just check out all the different layers of heaven in Buddhism. Wow, there's like 20 of them. So again, we see a lot of tiered systems, and each layer of reality in this heaven realm has a different function. And again, what's interesting is we see that there are main 3 tiers to this heaven realm. We have 6 realms of desire, then above that we have realms of form, and then above that we have formless realms. And then of course at the top you have perfect attainment, or in Catholicism we have the notion of God. So yeah, there's a lot going on with this as well, which doesn't really apply to this video. And if we look at the other side of the coin, the Buddhist hell concepts, we find that that is layered as well. Just look at this. There are different hells, with the Avicii realm being at the very bottom, which is the worst. And if you study the different hells that exist in Buddhist tradition, wow, it really goes into detail. There's hot hells, there's cold hells, there's crushing hells where your body could be stuck between 2 rocks for millennia, or you could be dragged down to the bottom of a bog for however long. Whatever the sin, that is your penance. And even if we look at the religion of Kabbalah, their main symbol is this right here, the tree of life. And it's called the tree of life because it resembles a tree. And on this tree, there are different nodes. Each one has different function and represent different things. But what's interesting about this is even this symbol right here can be broken down into this 3 structured heaven system. So we see this 3, that's why 3, the number 3 is so important in Catholicism and Judaism, because everything is broken down into this 3-tier system. We have the 3rd realm, which is called the Yetzirah, we have the Bara, and then Atzilut. So, and then of course at the bottom, which hinges the tree to the material realm, we have this little node right here. So there's so much symbolism. I could do a 20-minute video just on this right here, but of course it doesn't really apply to what I'm talking about here. Now, with all the tier systems of heaven and hell in mind, we can now start to look at reality and how it's layered. And to do that, we have to turn to science. Now, what we've learned so far is that everything operates on a different vibration or frequency, and the same thing applies to our reality. Now, science has broken down our reality into different frequencies that exist in our waking state, and that is illustrated in this diagram right here, which I called vibrational reality. Now, when our brain is awake and alert, it is what is called the beta state. And our brain is operating from 13 to 30 hertz per second. Now, once we calm down a little bit and we're in a relaxed state, hey, we're watching TV, whatever, we start to fall down into this alpha state, which our brain operates on 8 to 12 hertz. When we move down from that, we start to get into our REM sleeping stages, our deep meditation stages, and stages where visions come to a lot of the mystics. And that's called the theta stage, which operates on the 4 to 8 hertz stage. And then at the very bottom, we find the delta stage, where we have the brain operating with blackouts and comas and things like that, which go from 0 to 5 hertz, around that area. Now, there are different frames of mind above that, which are called the gamma stages, hyper, gamma, lambda. Now, these stages, of course, are very rare, and not many people can actually work on these frequencies. And what's interesting is a lot of athletes out there, and when they get interviewed, they're like, well, why are you so good at baseball? And they will actually tell you, well, when things are happening, the ball's being thrown, I'm looking at that ball, my mind can actually slow down time. And it's my theory is that their brain is operating on this gamma stage that is above the alpha stage. So certain people can operate in that frequency. So now that we've looked at that, we can see that there are different frequencies that make up our reality. Now, what's interesting is once we start getting into this theta stage, we start getting into the reality where visions exist, where reality could be manipulated with our dreams and things like that. There are a lot of mystics and Indian cultures that actually do a lot of dream work. I myself do the same thing. I don't really want to get into it in this video here, but I'll save that for another time. But yeah, we see that reality is layered. And of course, now that you have all of this in mind, it's now time to take a look at one of the most powerful tools in my toolbox when it comes to Ghost Hunting 2.0, and that is the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Because everything that's laid out in the Tibetan Book of the Dead requires you to understand that reality is tiered, heaven is tiered, hell is tiered, and there are different layers that you have to get through and that you can be attracted to that make up your reality. Now, when it comes to my book, Ghost Hunting 2.0, I spend about half the book talking about the Tibetan Book of the Dead and symbols like this right here that are very, very powerful. Now, to understand Ghost Hunting 2.0 and get into the deeper layers of ghost hunting and figuring out how that all relates to heaven, hell, religion, and it all intersects and it makes you a person that comes closer to God, closer to understanding the secrets of the universe. This is it right here. Now, the Tibetan Book of the Dead is very, very powerful, and they've actually broken down the spirit realm, or the realms that exist in the afterlife, into 6 separate states. And depending on how you live during life is where you're going to be attracted to in the afterlife. And what's funny is they have hell realms, they have animal realms, realms for divas. You can even come back into the human realm because that's also a realm that we're existing in right now. And like I said, there are 6 in all. And what's funny is even when you get to the end of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, it talks about that, these are just the main 6. There are realms underneath this that you could also be reborn into, like the plant realm, the protozoa realm. I mean, there's realms even under that. And I mean, you have to be super evil to probably be reborn there because you have to de-evolve just to get to those planes of existence. Because when we look at our goal in life, it is to evolve and not de-evolve, because in the afterlife, those do have repercussions of where you'll be going. Now, when I interact with spirits in the field of ghost hunting, this is why I'm so effective. This is why I end up getting 90-minute interactions with spirits, because I understand the different spirits that are stuck within all these different realms. Because I figured out that each one of these realms, they have different creatures, they have different inhabitants, they have different ways of operating, and different frames of mind of the people that are stuck there. And once you start figuring that out, it puts you on a different level of thinking than a ghost hunter does. So this is why I call myself a ghost doctor, ghost behaviorist, because I just can't call myself a ghost hunter. Alright, so make sure you subscribe to this channel, because in future videos we are going to explore all these different realms that exist in the afterlife and all the creatures and things that exist within this matrix. Because once you figure that out, it's just the lights start going off in your head and you start figuring out more about how all this stuff interconnects. And that's what really drives me nuts about watching ghost hunting shows these days. They have stagnated to the point where I can't watch them anymore. You know, it's like watching them doing the same thing over and over again since 2008. And it drives me damn near nuts to see them do this and not learning. It's like they've become complacent in their methods. So I'm going to be presenting to you all new methodologies that are just going to make you just have these aha moments, one after the other after another, and it's going to be something great, especially when we're in this time where people are finding so much enlightenment and becoming thirsty for knowledge. So this is exactly why I'm putting all of my work out there right now, because I am about to show you the next level of ghost hunting, and we are going to do this together.